Hey, y'all, welcome into the Holy Rival Show, where we see things from a red and blue perspective. I'm Wild Ute. This is Bomber. How you doing today, Bomber?
I'm doing great, and I'm getting reverb.
This is Bomber. How you doing today, Bomber?
Something is
I'm doing
going
great,
wrong.
and I'm getting reverb.
This is Bomber. How you doing today, Bomber?
Stop.
Something is
I'm
doing
doing
great,
wrong.
and I'm getting.
I don't know, our audio's... Okay, are you running audio in the background? Because I'm hearing it.
No audio in the background.
Okay, are you running audio in the background? Because I'm hearing it.
There's something really screwed up. All right. For those who've joined, I'm not sure what's going on. What the hell is... I'm double connected somehow. All right. Let's see. How about now? Let's try this again. All right, everybody, for joining. Sorry about that. We've had some technical difficulties. I got to bring back Wild Ute, and he'll be right here. And we just need to get back into this. I hope everybody's been following the stories that have been going out. Right now, we are tracking the Colorado story and the San Diego State story. Right now, we've got Wild Ute. Wild Ute, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Good, doing great. We had technical difficulties, so I appreciate you being back.
It happens. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. All right, go ahead and kick it off.
Yep. So on the docket today is Beyond the PAC. We're going to explore alternative conference destinations for each of the PAC teams, which is very topical today here. But before we really get into that, wanted to say here that there's been a lot of mudslinging lately going on between fan bases and on Utah fans throwing it back and stuff, especially with the Big 12. And it seems like over the last couple of days, it's really kind of reached almost a fever pitch. And I did want to show a quick 90-second video clip here just to share kind of some of the things going on right now in the trolling world.
All right, let's do it.
All right, you got first pick.
No, you go first.
All right, James.
Stacy.
We'll take Natalie.
Matt.
Whitney.
All right. Daniel.
Really?
Yeah.
We'll take Hector. Yo. Who's gonna finish mowing the lawn?
Hey, kid. You want to play ball?
There we go.
Oh, no.
We'll take the guy mugging that dude.
Star. We'll take the victim.
He just got stabbed. He's in no condition to play.
When is that?
Yes.
That's nepotism.
Sparky.
Yukon.
He is a dog. He can't even hit the ball.
How dare you?
How dare you? Cornelius from the 1968 film Planet of the Apes.
He's not even real. He's a fictional character.
Oh, man. They got corn dog.
All right.
So as you can see, there's been some serious mudslinging here. Man, I'll tell you what, I saw that and I noticed there was like over 100,000 views on that, more than like 1,000 likes. So just note, if you're going to throw that kind of stuff out to Ute fans, we're going to fight back. I mean, seriously, that's some mad shade there. So just throwing it out there, like we'll be cool sometimes if you're cool to us, but we got to protect our turf too. I mean, that's some high level stuff.
That's some good stuff. Now I've turned on the link I just posted in our comic section. If you want to join us live, me and Wild Ute are going to be talking all things realignment for the next however long we can keep people attached. We've got 6 people watching right now. And I think the next thing I'd like to jump into until somebody joins us is the comments from Colorado University's president. Did you see those?
Yeah, I did. Let everyone know about those, Bomber.
Yeah, I will. So basically, the president of University of Colorado just put out a article today. It's actually a response to an interview question. And it basically, he says, I'm just going to read it. In fact, let me share it so everybody can see what we're talking about. Let me stop that and we'll share the. I hope you guys are seeing these because these are pretty amazing comments. All right, basically he's saying here, and if you can see it, I hope you can. It says, interesting comments from the CU AD Rick George, especially considering there's been reports that CU might be the one to jump first, meaning to the Big 12. Everyone is committed until they're not. Is CU committed or are they gone? And this is his quote. We're members of the Pac-12. We're proud members of the Pac-12, and we've got to see where our media rights deal lands and where our conference goes. In a perfect world, we'd love to be in the Pac-12, but we also have to do what's right for Colorado. At the end of the day, we'll evaluate things as we move forward. So what do you think about that, Wild Ute? What do you think about that?
I think it's just more instability, right? Just more of what we've seen. Really, I think nothing's changed over the last few months. I mean, it's just more of the same stuff. Like, hey, yeah, we're semi-committed, but we're really not overly committed. If something better turns up, then we're gonna jump. And of course, these guys want to see the numbers, but like a lot of folks have talked about, they have to have a ballpark, right? I mean, like
right.
Media partners out, like they have a ballpark. They know what to expect. So I don't know. I don't take much from that. I think that's kind of like almost like a nothing burger to me, I guess.
I don't think it is. You know what? We have an all-star joining us, Larry Pilgrim,
Hey,
all the
Larry,
way from Florida. How you doing, Larry?
Aaron, let me show you how I'm doing.
Oh gosh,
Larry.
Well, at least we don't have
Hey,
snow
Larry,
here
cheers
anymore.
To that. Look at that. Cheers to that, Larry.
Cheers. It was kind of nice because I got to go up to Gainesville for the game last year because I moved down here about 2 years ago. So it was kind of nice to be able to go to that game.
Yeah, it was amazing to watch on television, and from all the comments I saw afterwards, you guys got nothing but props from the Florida fans. So the tip of the hat to you guys.
Thanks. Yeah, it was funny because BYU was just 80 miles down the road.
Right.
So
right.
It was
that flight, Larry. I flew up from Salt Lake, and there's a bunch of Cougar fans on the same flight as me because they're going to the USF.
Yeah,
USF. Yep.
Florida. Yeah. Did you get roughed up at all in Gainesville by any fans out there?
If my woman wasn't with me, I probably would have needed bail money because there was a bunch of drunk kids in your face. I mean, screaming F word. It was rather. Yeah, the SEC takes their stuff serious. That's for sure.
So, have you seen these comments? Both the SDSU article that came out just this afternoon, and then the more important one is this CU president comment. Did you read that, Larry?
I just had heard because I'd been out on the links today, and so okay. I had just heard the Colorado AD, the Colorado AD's comments, and so I think we all kind of. I don't know. I figured that's where Colorado stood for a minute.
Right.
So, because, yeah. And it's kind of funny because you know what it made me think of is we've been in a conference with TCU and BYU for years. So it's, even though they would be going back, it's not like we wouldn't be rejoining old brothers, if that makes sense.
Sure. And that's part of the reason why we started this, right? The rivalry for us, you and me and Wild Ute, is personal. And and I think it's really important, not in a mean way. I mean, our rivalry is top 5 in the country, I think.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Wild Ute. I used to root for BYU anytime they weren't playing Utah.
I was the same way.
And then it just turned. Yeah. And it just got ugly, and it was like, you know, you kind of, well, screw you then. I'm not going to root for you.
Yeah, for
And-
sure.
You guys are nice guys. I've never really rooted for the Cougars, honestly.
We're
and-
older than you are, though. I think
Yeah.
when you remember them back in the WAC days, and they were together, it was because they needed to be strong together to make the conference stronger, so that they both appeared stronger. That was what happened, and then the Mountain West sort of toyed with that a little bit, and then of course once you guys got to the Pac-12, it became a non-issue.
It was kind of it was almost a state thing, like, because Utah has been so small, and I don't want to say irrelevant, but Utah was just kind of tucked, and we always had an issue. Just, you know, everybody had this preconceived notion about Utah, and so Utah always just seemed stuffed in the corner. So you just wanted somebody to limelight the state, and at the time, BYU and Utah were the ones doing that. So it was more of a rooting for your state rather than the program.
Right.
And then it turned into that. And I'm 51. Well, I'll be 51 next month. So I remember when it was Utah's irrelevant, the state, not the programs.
You're 51. I can't believe I'm older than you. That is crazy.
Yeah.
I think everybody is younger than me. Whoever I see on TV, I think they're always younger than I am. So I never know.
So you were in that same camp as me. It was more of you're just rooting for everybody in the state.
Right.
And,
well, I'm from Washington State. So I grew up in the Apple Cup, about 90 miles from Pullman. Washington Wazoo was the biggest game of the year every year, unless they were playing in the Rose Bowl or beating USC. So with BYU being so far away, all we could do is support them from a distance. And Utah and BYU together were very strong, and they needed to be good so that they could help each other up. The only time they wanted to beat each other, I mean, I distinctly remember in bowl games cheering for Utah as long as they weren't playing BYU.
Right.
So
can you guys fill me in on the other article? What the other?
Sure. Yeah, let me bring that up. Hey, did you have any questions for him? I didn't mean to talk on top of you there.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Let me bring this up.
Larry, just more information about CU really going on right now, and about their commitment to the PAC when they want to see numbers, though. Like, it's basically the same thing that we've heard for weeks and months here. And I mean, that deal needs to get on the table, right?
Yeah.
Let's just see the numbers.
So let's see here. I'll bring it up again. I don't know if you can read that or not, but it says, we're members of the Pac-12. We're proud members of the Pac-12, and we've got to see where our media rights deal lands and where our conference goes. In a perfect world, we'd love to be in the Pac-12, but we also have to do what's best for us.
Yeah.
So, I think it's self-evident, but I don't understand. I do understand Utah's stance all along. Having the dream to get to the Big Ten is there's no reason that's not okay. I mean, that has value, but at this point, especially where we are with media money and distribution, that's a ways away for either of us.
Yeah.
Guys, I think we should go through the exercise now of looking at the teams in the PAC and talking and exploring really their destinations here. That's really what we wanted to do today. And this is a good segue in. And I think we should go A through Z here and start with the University of Arizona. But before we get into that, I was thinking about this before the show, and I was thinking back to a tweet from Bob Thompson a few months ago, where he mentioned that the most important thing in his eyes, as far as realignment drivers and value drivers, was your brand, number one, really your brand. And I think in that, I think he means fan base, rivalries, everything that your brand brings. Then also your media market, your football success would be the number three. And then your academics would be 4. So I think that through the lens of those drivers, I think that we should think about how some of these schools, where they should fall, what options they should have. And that's completely relevant because, if this PAC situation turns sour, then really we're going to be seeing this stuff.
So that's the question. So that's the question. Let's start it off there. If you lose Colorado, does the thing fall apart right then?
Yeah, I don't think so either.
No.
Okay. So what's the next step after that? Tell me what you guys are projecting the Pac-12 looks like if CU leaves.
If 2 schools leave, the cookie crumbles. If
it's
one
two
school
schools.
Leaves, 2 schools. Or if Oregon or Washington leave, it cookie crumbles too.
Yeah, but they're not going to go first. I think everybody said they're not going to go
Yeah,
first.
my opinion, if you keep Oregon and Washington, to me, are the key. Utah's the third, but if Utah left, say Utah, Colorado left.
Right.
You know, it's funny because all we talk about is if this left, if that left. I think if Colorado and Arizona left, actually, those would be the two if you had to lose two. With Arizona State, you're still keeping the Arizona market.
Yeah.
And with Colorado has just, they've been the bottom dweller in so many different ways in the PAC. Not saying that you can replace a state flagship university as easily, but in honest terms, those would be the two that you would want to lose. So if you lost Colorado and Arizona, to be honest, I think you could backfill with San Diego State. And the SMU thing is weird to me. I would rather pick up a Fresno or a Boise, but I get the academic side. But you could easily replace those two. Arizona's basketball, but I think the conference would be fine losing those two, staying at 10 if Washington and Oregon were still in the conference.
Okay. And you don't think they leave? I'm sorry. You go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's a little tougher. Losing two teams is really tough, and losing the Denver market, it's tough. Like I'm with you, Larry, on losing one Arizona school. You could probably survive. If you lose both Arizona, it's done. You can't. With that recruiting territory, with the Phoenix market, we need Arizona. One of the Arizona schools.
Well, I don't know if you guys know this and have thought about this. The problem with our media markets, we have great media markets, San Francisco, Denver, Portland, Seattle. We don't get the carrier fees that everybody else gets.
That's right.
Like DirecTV, because the Pac-12 could never come to an agreement on a carrier fee. We're not getting DirecTV carrier fee. We're getting Dish Network and Comcast. And we obviously see how the Comcast carrier fee things worked out.
Right.
So for us, the media market, our conference, we don't really get carrier money. And it's kind of strange. Nobody brings that up when we talk about markets where the Big Ten and even the ACC, they get money for every market they're in, where the PAC we don't. Mm-hmm. And so it's not so much for us, the media markets, but I think it's the stability of the state flagship still, though, that I agree with you, Wild Ute, on that. To me, that has an overshadowing effect.
What's
you have
a loss here. Is it Arizona or Arizona State?
What's that?
What's a bigger loss, the University of Arizona or Arizona State, for the survival of the PAC?
Arizona State actually has the more solid fan base. If you look through their viewership, when they had Herm Edwards, they were actually right behind. They were, third to fifth place in the PAC when they were doing good with Herm Edwards. They were actually doing good, just like Washington State. All those numbers that everybody sees, and they're like, "Oh, Washington State has a great viewership." That was under Mike Leach. Yeah. Since Mike Leach is gone, and they're not top 25, they're just not being watched as much. And so, to me, it's Arizona State. I think they're they have the bigger fan base.
If Colorado leaves, I really think the cookie crumbled. I'm not a Pac-12 guy, right? That's you guys, but I don't see. This is the way I've looked at it for a long time. Everybody talks about the Big Ten doesn't want blood on their hands by putting the Pac-12 out of its misery and just taking Washington and Oregon. Why don't they just do it and get it over with? They already sort of killed the Pac-12 when they took USC. Yes. So that work's already been done. So I think that whole blood on hands thing that's just a social media construct. I don't think that actually exists. This is my opinion. My opinion is if Colorado leaves, the structure falls apart, and they have already a secret agreement from Oregon and Washington, and they're going to go to the Big Ten. They just don't want to be the first ones to take people away. That's my opinion. I think it's already there, that it's built. It's just one of those schools needs to be brave to leave first. And I don't think there's there's really nothing you can argue about that, because if it was opposite and Washington, Oregon wanted to stick around to actually build that thing back up, put a stake in the ground and just do it. But they won't do that. They're not going to sign along Gore. There's just nothing there. That's why they can't get anything done.
No, and that's not going to change.
I don't think it is. That's why I don't think
it's hard to even see it happen, honestly, them signing anything, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't.
If we're really honest with ourselves, like, what's the likelihood that Oregon or Washington will sign anything the PAC puts in front of them, unless the big just said no, publicly, no chance.
Well, I've had it's not even tinfoil when you think about it, because it's just business. But I think from the get-go, Washington and Oregon stuck a number in front of George Kliavkoff and said, this is what you have to get, and this is how much we have to have on linear TV. I feel like Washington, Oregon sabotaged it from the word go, and set a goal that was too high for Kliavkoff to begin with, because what was it, 2 weeks after? I mean, Oregon and Washington were talking with the Big Ten.
Yeah, Stanford really and Cal were out in front of that too. So
yeah, and then
you can't blame the two by themselves.
And yeah, so are we just, in my opinion, here's where it is. ESPN and Fox want teams split up, and they want them sent to where they can get better viewership and they're more valuable. And in my opinion, the Pac-12 has two options: take the low bids from Fox and ESPN and get linear, or you say screw it and take the money with Apple and not have the exposure. That's it. So to me, I don't think it's a solid conference, because if they were solid, they would just take the Apple deal, take the money,
right,
and not worry about the exposure. Because in my opinion, if you look at it from a business standpoint, who's the one person you're not hearing about that the numbers are being discussed, or who's out of it, and who has the most money to spend? And they were rumored to have wanted, they came in years ago and were rumored to said they wanted the Pac-12 back then, which would make sense with all the ties they have to all the universities.
You're talking about Apple.
Yeah.
And
I honestly think Apple came in, this is just my opinion, came in with a $400 to $500 million, we're going to own everything, you're going to go streaming. That's going to be a hard deal to take. And so I think that's why they went in there and said, no, we're not taking 30 million we're not taking the Big 12 offer,
right,
the $30 million offer, because we can get 50 million. And so from a business standpoint, that's where I feel it is. How do you guys feel? You've got to have some ideas about what you think about it from a business standpoint. I know you have to.
Yeah, the business standpoint. That's the first time I've ever heard anyone say that, Larry. Interesting thought, just to think that there might have been $40-50 million on the table previously that we kind of turned away from like an Apple and stuff that might have influenced the ESPN offer. That's kind of what I'm hearing you say, at least. Maybe I think from a business standpoint, like looking from like a Utah lens, I just playing on Apple isn't as ideal. Not even close here, let's be honest, than playing on like a network TV station, right? Like we don't know if sub-licensing is possible, how that's going to look. I don't like it a bit. I don't like it. I don't like the fact that we're talking with CW Ion. I just think that it really feels semi-pro, like, when everyone's playing in the NFL, when we're playing in like the Canadian Football League and stuff, when we're playing on the CW. To me, it feels real low level. I don't like that. I want to play in big games when millions of people watching on ABC, in the big stations. And that just doesn't look like that's going to be available for the youth. So from a business perspective, I just wonder what the exposure part's going to do down the line and stuff over 5 years. Because even if we sign this for 5 years, what does the youth program look like in 6-7 years after all that crap? Playing on the CW for 5 years. Are we going to be as strong or weaker? I'll bet we're weaker. And so that has me concerned. And so this is kind of naturally moving to saying what's best for the youths here. I mean, like we're talking about, exploring different conferences and everything. Larry Pilgrim, what is best for the youths in your opinion, given everything we're talking about? what conference is best for the Utes?
At this point, from a high end sight, I mean, unfortunately, it's the Big 12 when it comes to athletics.
Yeah.
It is, and it's just like you said. How long has it taken Utah to get to the point where they're at?
Right.
They're not a top brand,
Right.
but they're known. You know,
Sure.
you don't get to 2 Rose Bowl. Everybody's, they say Utah's not a brand, and it's like you don't go to 2 Rose Bowls, play these big out of conference games, and not say you're not a brand.
No.
Boise State's a brand, and how many big games have they played in? So unfortunately, it's looking like we're almost going to have to go there, because if not, like you just said, Wild Ute, our brand, it's going to go back down to when we all started in the Mountain West,
And then
trying to get exposure.
Oregon and Washington leave in 5 years, we're screwed.
It's not going
We're totally screwed. And like, who knows what things look like in 5 years? That's what my concern is. Like, I want to get in the Big Ten. You want to get in the Big Ten? We've talked about that before, right? The Big Ten is the goal, the dream, and everything else, but you can't plan on that, right? Oregon and Washington can't even get an invite right now. Like Utah, it's just not realistic. We want it, but I don't think it's realistic. And
so
Ireland or something.
This is where I come in as the voice of reason for you two. I appreciate the dream. BYU's wanted the dream for 50 years, so I feel everything that you're saying, and I think we're tied at the hip, frankly, which is why I think the rivalry is so important, and why I think the closer we stay together going forward, at least for the short term, we're going to be better. At the end of the day, Larry said it. Oregon and Washington at the very beginning set some mark that is basically unattainable. Mm-hmm. And because of that, I think the conference, again, it's only going to take one. I don't even think 2 schools. I think it's just 1 school. And then people are going to be like, what does this look like after the next day if they throw something together and it's not good? So, and nobody says you're into the Big 12. We just lost Texas and Oklahoma, right? They left. They were on the 99-year-old Gore. But they were able to buy their way out and go. So there's no reason to say you get into the league and in 5-6 years, if the Big wants you, they can write you a check.
I'm with you. Yeah.
Let's just get it done. I want to play football. I want to talk recruiting and NIL and stuff.
I want to know. I want a commitment from Oregon and Washington. So I think that if Oregon and Washington do fully commit, I think that a better offer will come on the table. That's just my thoughts. Seriously.
Right. Well,
I think that's part of the reason that the deal sucks so bad right now is because Oregon and Washington's lack of commitment with everybody else. Everyone.
Come on, Coos. Come on, brother.
Yeah, I think I like that Coos corner. He's got that down. Good job, Justin. I'm coming, Elizabeth. This is the big one. And it's throwing his hands in the air saying it's all over, right? I'm coming. Look, you guys are being more pragmatic. People in Utah are not stupid.
No.
Been around a long time. Let's just move on, right? You guys have been the most loyal outside of Oregon State. You've been out in front, taking all the barbs for all the other schools that frankly knew they had something better, and they let you guys go out there and hang and flop. And one other thing before we let Larry go, there's this comment from Joe about the Big 12 and Aztecs. So let me just come to that article really quick.
Oh, yeah.
Article came out today that's on SDSU and basically about their timeline. Right now they're looking at about $17 million to leave by June 30th. If that offer doesn't come, it doubles. And the additional years that it adds, it's 5, 6, 7, up to 17 more million dollars. So $34 million, a school like San Diego State cannot afford that. So that's the other sort of ticking time bomb here is what happens? Right. Does SDSU get the offer before they sign a media deal?
It's up in the air. I mean, honestly, it's kind of like too bad. They're in a position like where they don't have an offer that we're aware of, right? They just have to deal with however things fall. They're kind of down the line of really this realignment domino. So they have to pay more to get out. That was just bad timing for them and stuff. I'm not sure that's going to drive anything with realignment.
Well, the thing is, don't you guys think that they were sort of promised? They've sort of acted like they were promised the membership, right?
Yeah.
The whole thing's bad, guys. Go to USC. They lied to not have the conference pick up teams from the Big 12. And then the next year they jumped to the Big 10. So none of these people are being honest, I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
I think the Pac-12 would love to add them, but we all know that what's going on right now is consolidation.
Right.
And so unless they're not bringing teams up from the AAA. They're not bringing guys up. The networks don't want to pay more money for something they don't have to.
Right.
And when you have teams like, I mean, think about it. The Pac-12 can't even get a legitimate real offer. That just tells you nobody wants to buy. So I feel bad for San Diego State. BYU and Utah has been in San Diego State's position.
Yes.
And I feel for them, but just like Utah, just 5 years, 10 years too late to get to the Big Ten. They're 5-10 years late to get to the Pac-12.
Exactly right. Yeah. And it's going to be consolidation going forward. I think we're looking at 3 super conferences, at least 20 teams. What do you guys think about that?
Well, absolutely. It's sure looking like that to me. 3 of 20. I
think 22, because I did the math. So if you have 22 teams with 2 conferences, 10 conference games, that gives you 2 out of conference, right?
Right.
You can still have your 2 divisions. I'm thinking we're going to go to, well, that'd be 66. I think it's going to end up 66 teams.
That
makes the most sense.
In right now, so 3 would get booted in that scenario. Basically at a P5 play.
Yes. So you're looking at the ones that are the orphans that are going to have real trouble. Washington State, Oregon State,
and ACC
Wake Forest,
whatever.
Right? These are schools that are going to struggle to get the money and financing to stay up. I agree with this too from Coos about, Big 12 possibly getting San Diego State. I think there's value there. I agree with that, but
what does San Diego State really bring to the Big 12? Like, I mean,
it's the value proposition with the 3.2 million households and
guys.
You asked me.
I'm going to try to be nice about this.
Okay.
SDSU is not USC, guys.
I don't think anybody is saying they are.
About them. I mean, they're probably a great ad for the PAC and everything, but they're not going to move the needle. They're not going to be financially accretive.
The recruiting, if you don't have another team in California, it doesn't help. Hey, I don't think SDSU by themselves, one team in California. I don't think it helps that enough.
For the Big 12 now, I'm with you. Yeah.
So, and who's going to pay for them?
Well,
who's going to pay for them?
I got a different angle on this. So BYU came in and they were immediately one of the top money guys in the Big 12, right? I mean, if you look at just total revenue and the media valuation, they're in the top third. So they're carrying a lot of weight right now. And Yormark came in and immediately went international, started talking to Mexico, right? And has talked about some other partnerships in the media and whatnot. San Diego State is a huge recruiting area for BYU. A lot of LDS people in Southern California. And I think that value by itself might carry it. But that's just my opinion. I don't have anything to base that on. Joe Burke's got a comment here. He says, I'm seeing different information. I have information that they've been invited to the Big 12.
Is that SDSU?
Yeah, I think he's talking about SDSU. I don't know. Joe, where'd you get that from? I don't know about that.
I mean, SDSU for the PAC makes so much sense. You take back Southern California. You've been there before,
right
area, right?
Well, who doesn't like to go there? I'd love to go there in November to watch a football game.
For sure, yeah. I mean, the PAC makes perfect sense. The Big 12, it just seems.
Why? I don't understand. I still don't get it. You keep shaking your head. What is the no value? You were G5 12 years ago. Come on, you can't act like you've been there for 50 years. You guys are new just like we are. You're a little ahead of us, but SDSU is only a little behind us.
Oh, yeah. We learned the hard way when you go into a P5 how far you think you are ahead.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about competition at all. No, we're 5 years away. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the school. You give them the money and the exposure. I think they do.
Oh, well, they could be a decent team. Yeah.
Which would be the reason to bring them in. That's
yeah, but why wouldn't you bring it? Boise probably has a higher ceiling than San Diego.
But Boise doesn't have the rest of they are not going to bring him in just as football only.
Right.
They don't have the rest of the athletic department to support it. I think that those numbers have been run several different ways to Sunday, and I don't think that adds up.
You guys think about the travel here for SDSU. Every single game's cross country.
Yeah,
Outside
but
of
they want to be,
BYU,
but they're willing to pay the price to get into the big game.
man, like it just for me, it doesn't make sense for the Big
Okay,
12.
well, that's fair.
Unless
think-
the Big 12 adds more teams like a Utah, there's closer teams closer by, you can grab it a pod or something to make it fit a little bit better. That could work. But like right now, them like on an island in California, they'd be playing cross country in Florida. They've been playing Lubbock, Cincinnati.
Right.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
And I'm glad you brought that up. Isn't it funny how, I mean, we all know Kliakov, just whatever. He's kind of a joke, but when it first came out, I remember him saying, "Why would you leave these two out here?" And that's just stupid for them. And everybody laughed at Kliakov. And now all of a sudden the narrative is you can't leave them out on an island. So it's like,
Yeah, I thought all that was nonsense. I think that was all noise. Brandon Unruh says he thinks Colorado's come with somebody else if they come. I could see that.
Yeah.
Let's see, Coos Corner again. Notice he said May. I'm still in limbo. I could see UConn and San Diego State being added to the Big 12.
B-ball only or full members?
No, full members, both of them.
Yeah.
Well, think about it. Go ahead, Larry.
Oh, sorry. Wouldn't you grab I don't know. It's really tough. Memphis is in a better position regionally.
Right.
They've got a good ceiling. They'll help out UCF, Cincinnati, West Virginia. I think there's a higher upside as far as recruiting and stuff in Southern California.
Right.
And, a place that people would probably love to go watch a game. But I think if you're going to add any G5s, wouldn't, a Memphis be like one of the more competitive, got a good fan base, invest in their football and basketball program? Wouldn't they be the best G5 ad?
Yeah, from a Big 12 standpoint, I don't know how much you guys have tracked this, but I've been doing it for a year now. And the reason they're competition straight up, there's teams or schools in the league that don't want to share with anybody there in the middle. The edges is where you need help. You need help for BYU and West Virginia. West Virginia has been on an island for 12, 13 years now. They need help. So I want UConn, actually. It doesn't bother me if it's dilutive because we're all talking about our next contract's not for 6 years. So who the hell cares for right now? What we're trying to do is build the league so that it's stronger later. And that's, I think, where Yormark is looking down the road. Why he was just in Connecticut this last week. He was up there on campus. He didn't fly in like Kliakov did to SMU and then duck out. He's walking around, shaking hands, talking to people.
UConn basketball works in the Big 12. That's a great fit, the basketball component.
San Diego State basketball, they just played each other in the championship. And they've been good. They were good all the way back in the WAC and Mountain West.
I mean, if Utah's in the Big 12, San Diego State is a good, as a Utah fan, if you're in the Big 12, just like for West Virginia, Memphis, that San Diego State would be a great ad in the Big 12 if Utah's in the Big 12. Same with BYU.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm with
for
you.
us. It's just weird to see Coos, who's out in West Virginia, wanting to add San Diego.
Well, I think he's doing the pragmatic thing too, right? That's one thing that the Big 12 has done is they know who they are. I say they because I'm not in until July 1st, but the Big 12 knows who they are. They're not trying to be anything else. That's why they're powerful, is because they're together. Nobody's trying to pull at the edges. And believe it or not, they're going to go much farther than any of the others because they don't have those dueling priorities. Pac-12, you have 12 guys that say they're together, but really you have 10 schools that all want different things. Same thing with the ACC. You got 4, 5, 6 at the top, and they don't really care about anybody else on the bottom. They're not together. So that's where the power for the Big 12 comes out.
Together today, who knows tomorrow? I mean, you say you're all solid and stuff in the Big 12. If there's a P3 breakaway, the best of the rest, then all of a sudden things change, right?
Of course.
Only as good as your options.
I think that's what people say, though. 2 Masta, 4 corners plus UConn makes a lot of sense. I like Gonzaga. I think Gonzaga's basketball only. I actually think you said 22, right, Larry? You said 3 of 22.
I think 3 of 22 might be the end goal.
And I think that works where because Yormark's looking down the road for basketball split off too. I actually think he could go to 20 full-time all sports and 4 basketball only, which would be Villanova. You could go St. John's, basically the Big East, Creighton, and Gonzaga.
Georgetown. Could you get Georgetown?
I don't know. Is Georgetown still a brand? I don't know.
Okay,
Yeah.
Bomber, I've got
They
some
are.
concerns here. Okay, I've got.
Please tell me.
What's the identity of the Big 12? Is it a basketball conference like primarily? Because
I don't have any.
Utes. I don't want to be in that.
No,
Yeah.
I don't.
I want to
I
be in
don't-
a conference that takes football seriously. If you add St. John's or you add UConn,
They're not playing football. I don't know what the problem is. You're getting caught up in the syntax. At the end of the day, who cares? You're getting a check and you're competing. You got teams that are you telling me you go to Oklahoma State and you play in Stillwater and you're not thinking you're playing big boy football? If you go to UCF in Florida, where Larry can tell us what that's like there, they go to play ball, right? They don't screw around over there. So
no doubt
cares
about
what
it.
brand
When you're
you
talking about adding St. John's and UConn, that's in Gonzaga. We're talking about a different.
those are
world.
4 basketball only. They're just there to play basketball.
Yeah.
I
think
don't
he's
understand
talking-
why.
It's
I think-
awkward. It kind of reminds me of the old Big East a little bit. didn't
Yeah,
it?
I think that's where he's going, Boomer, is like, the emphasis on, yeah, we're really good at football. If you just put all your resources into one sector, eventually, that's kind of where it can go. Like the Big East had everything, and then all of a sudden it became more, their football was laughed at and their basketball was appreciated.
Right.
And so that's what Utah used to be. We used to be a basketball school.
Right.
Back
That's
in
right.
Rick Majerus days. We weren't we did okay at football, but
No.
Rick Majerus. Yeah.
Yeah. Everything
We don't want to go
changed-
back to that.
That's
Everything
something to
changed with
consider.
Urban Meyer.
That's something to consider, Bomber. Really, like
I
mean,
really
what's
don't
the
care.
identity of the Big 12? Is it really just like balance, or is it basketball? Because some schools aren't going to want to jump over if it's just basketball. I mean, we know what's the revenue driver here. 5 times football over basketball.
Wild Boomer still is in the honeymoon phase.
No, you guys are.
He's in the honeymoon phase.
None of those things is true. None of those things.
What's the identity? Tell me.
Holy crap! Would you listen? Listen to me. Gosh, I want to say it's 2 Utes on one channel. I'm not sure I can handle this. Might blow this whole thing up right now. All right, this is my point. I don't think it matters. I don't think anybody in the Big 12 cares what the branding is. They want to compete. You guys are in a league that they very much care about stuff like that. This right here is the polar opposite positions of these. They're 2 different visions. The Big 10 doesn't care if they're basketball or football. They're the Big 10. SEC doesn't care if they're basketball or football. They're the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
The Big 12 doesn't care. They just want to compete and make the most money possible. The best way they can think to do that is to monetize basketball, but show up on Saturdays and play football. So I don't know why it should matter what they call it.
I would say that the Power 2 focuses on football. The SEC, would you ever think of basketball when you think of the SEC?
What do you mean? They're constant.
The Big 10?
They had like 7 or 8 teams in the tournament. You bet. Sankey talked about qualification for basketball this last spring. He wants more teams in the tournament because he wants to bring in more SEC schools. You don't think he cares? It's a full quarter of the revenue.
But not as much.
Okay, my point is I don't think anybody in the Big 12 cares. So you guys can call yourselves whatever you want.
Right, but that's the point. That's the point, Boomer.
Going into the Big 12, that's like a real possibility. And so that's one of my biggest concerns. Like, what's the identity of the Big 12? Like, if we're going to be joining that conference, like
I don't know why you're caught up on
football is going to be a priority.
Okay, look, at the end of the day, you're getting the semantics don't matter. I'm telling you, the guys don't care. I'm giving you perception from the people I've been dealing with for a year now, and they're seeing what you guys are caught up on. And that's the difference. So you come and fit in or don't fit in, the train's going to leave the station though.
Right.
And there's only so many slots on the chain. Now, Larry, you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was kind of talking about that point of like, the whole who cares. Like we can talk about, Utah just won the national ski. They're the national championship in skiing.
Right.
Does the Big 12 care?
They would if you were here.
Okay.
I get
that's the
notifications
point. Like,
every day for softball and baseball and wrestling and all these things
right.
that show up
So
every day. They do care about promoting that stuff.
so that's I think that's the point he's trying to make, is when we're talking about, do you fit in? Like, are those people over there, just this way or that way? And I think it's a blending. And to Utah, football is king. And not that basketball doesn't matter and we don't respect all the sports, but it's just I'm not that concerned. I mean, it'll be fine if we're a football powerhouse and our basketball is just average. Like, I'm fine with that. But I think it's just that blending of being concerned about what's more important. And like you're saying, and I respect that, like, it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter to some people. Like, I live in Florida. They don't care about anything but football. If they get teams in the tourney, awesome. If Utah gets a softball team to the national championship in girls softball, great. Do we really care? No. It's just something we can brag about, but that's not what we want to brag about. So it's a bragging point. We want to brag about football, I guess.
Okay, and nobody's stopping you.
Yeah.
Coos is going, and Yormark's gone out of his way to try to be the #1 basketball conference in the country. He's said that several times. I don't think that's. But my point is, I don't disagree with Coos' statement there. He has done that. But I'm telling you, the participating schools, they look at themselves at the exact same level that Utah looks at themselves, but they're not walking around with a label. There's no presumption there, and it is really an attitude difference. So
we come from a place in the PAC where we failed because we didn't focus on football. There was 10 years of focusing on the Pac-12 networks, the Olympic sports, and it blew up in our face. And so that really happened with the PAC. And
I believe
lack of focus, lack of like a financial commitment, lack of Commissioner Larry Scott commitment on football, and it absolutely blew the PAC up.
Have you been listening to the messaging coming out from the schools though? Are they walking around saying we're only going to include people that are really good at football?
No,
it hasn't been that. You find me one quote, and I'm happy to have a whole show on it. But there isn't one.
It's more fan base, Boomer. It's more fan base,
right.
I
understand.
Yeah, because when you're good at something, you're going to brag, and so the Big 12's been bragging about it.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And Utah can brag about football. What I'm saying is nobody's walking around saying you got to be one or the other. Because the SEC and Big 10 don't talk about either. They just go out and play.
Yeah.
Opie says here, if basketball is broken off, I think that we've talked about that the financing and the way that the basketball is handled in the league might be completely different. Eventually in basketball and football might just be its own league anyway. They might just take the top 64 or 66 teams and just play.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I know Yormark's trying to take the basketball into a different direction. And I mean, it could go, it could not. It just depends on what the networks want to do. The networks control what happens. And for all we know, that may be why the contract is a little bit better in the Big 12 is because of the basketball, not their football. They may be getting a little bit extra. Maybe Fox pitched in a little extra on that 10 million because they feel like the basketball is going to bring the draw.
I think that's very possible.
And so, that may be a benefit. Utah may be able to benefit a little bit by being in that conference. Just by getting, they would get basketball money where they don't get it in the Pac-12. So,
well, at the end of the day, what we all three of us want is we want the rivalry back in one way or another. I think we're both more valuable because of it. I don't know if you guys are advocating for this, but I would love us to be in the same league. And I think at the end of the day, in 5, 6, 7 years, we're all better off if we're together. That's my contention. And
10 years, I'm with you.
Yeah, and I think the whole third conference thing, I think could be a real deal. There's no reason to say we couldn't end up with 50 or 60 million. I've said this for a long time. I think if Oregon and Washington joined with the Four Corner School and came to the Big 12, I think the media valuation will go up to about 40 or 42 million per school.
Yes.
So why don't they do that? If they want exposure and they can get money, why not do that as a bridge to eventually go into the Big Ten? Why hold your breath?
And let's talk about that for a second. So Oregon's an intriguing one to me.
Right.
For the Big 12, actually. So everyone's talking about Oregon to the Big Ten. That might happen and everything, but
Right.
Oregon's a school that actually, if that blows up, might consider coming to the Big 12. I mean, it's not overly likely, but it could happen. Really, I mean, that's more of a possibility if the Big doesn't want them.
Don't you think Yormark already has worked this out with ESPN and Fox?
Yeah, I'm sure.
I got to imagine they went into a whiteboard in September when they got offered the contract that the Pac-12 turned down, and they said, give me pricing if this school comes, if this school comes, if this school comes, if this school comes. Where do we end up? And don't you believe that they've at least made a phone call to say, hey, Brett, if we come, what's the valuation go to?
Yeah.
I got to imagine that's happened.
Well, an automatic pro rata kind of tells you the direction that ESPN was headed.
Right.
I mean, just the fact that they were saying, hey, we don't know who you're going to add, but we're going to guarantee $20 million.
Exactly.
But we won't give $20 million to those teams in the Pac-12. Like, okay.
Yeah,
I mean, that was a sign.
Do you know that for a fact?
The pro rata?
No, I know the pro rata is there. In fact, it's the only media deal with any of the conferences that's pro rata. No, my question is, you said they're not going to give them the money for teams in the Pac-12.
If ESPN was willing to go with like the tier 1 and maybe partially tier 2 and pay that $20 million,
right?
The Pac-12 could get $5 to $8 million for the rest of their package somewhere.
Oh, you're talking about if you stayed in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about if they came over. I think they're worth more money in the Big 12.
Yeah. Well, and I'll give you this, Boomer. It is depressing, and you can back me up on this, Wild Ute. Why our numbers are so low. There is no reason that we should only be at the numbers we are, being at 1 million to 1.5 million when you're a top 15 team, right, and you can't get any of your other conference members to watch you. Like, I'm not sure about Wild Ute. I watch everybody in the conference,
right,
and it's like nobody else does that. And I don't like that about the Pac-12, that Cal fans aren't really watching Utah. They're not watching anybody. Right. But I'll watch them play.
Watching Utah. Stanford's not watching Utah.
It's because you're dealing with 12 or 10 different personalities. That's why. They all have different goals.
That's not united. Point, Larry. Yeah, the television numbers will probably boost for the Utes in the Big 12.
Oh, double.
Seriously, right?
Well, and think about what's the rivalry worth to the entire conference.
Yeah, that's right.
What's the University of Arizona and Arizona State to the entire conference?
Okay. I don't know.
Colorado back with all the schools in the Midwest.
I think with all the hate towards Utah, I guarantee you'd have 5 to 6 million Big 12 fans screaming for Utah to get their butts beat now.
Don't you believe that? Well, if you like wrestling, there's always a heel, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's always a bad guy, and you guys could be the NWO, and be wearing black jerseys, and I'm dead serious.
Hey, you know what? Whatever it takes.
Inside out and be very popular, right? I think this is a foregone conclusion. We're talking about this. We've been doing it for months. I don't see how the Pac-12 lasts past.
Hey, Boomer, if I can get enough people to concede in all these talks and chats that I've had all across the internet,
right,
I would feel a lot better about going to the Big 12 if I could have some Big 12 people say that Utah is valuable enough to come. Because when you hear people say they're not worth it,
that's a bunch of crap, Larry.
Yeah,
that's a bunch of crap. No, I can give you 6 people. I'm happy to host we can do just a show just on that, and I'll bring them in and they'll tell you exactly what they're worth. They're just pissed off that you guys are the sore thumb that's been out there, and Utah Pig Bus. I don't normally call people out. Wild Ute knows this, but Utah Pig Bus, when he did the truck stop conference, I'm sorry, and it stuck. And then you had Altimore. He hasn't helped your cause either, which is funny because Altimore is a USC guy. So he's done more to damage the reputation of the Pac-12 and the schools by himself than anybody else would have done. So if those two events don't happen and you don't get the name calling and stuff, right now what we're talking about is who's going to win the Big 12 in 2024. And is it going to be Utah, or is it going to be Oklahoma State, or is it going to be, Louisville potentially in the ACC? I mean, it could be something completely different than it is right now. But the perception of Utah is quite high for competition. It's just they hate you guys to death because of a few really bad actors.
Yeah. Right.
So I've told this to Wild Ute the first time we talked to him, like, we need to get you Utes out, get out from underneath the car, get out and engage. And I think the value and the communication will go up, and you guys will feel a lot better about the whole thing.
We actually got a compliment, me and you, Wild Ute, from somebody on one of the boards the other day. They said, you know, I hear Wild Ute and Larry Pilgrim in there. They're actually realistic and they seem like a normal fan. Like,
right.
You know, we're protective of our brand, but we're also respectful of other people's brands.
Exactly.
And so they actually gave us credit and said, hey, there's two Utes who aren't wacky.
Start somewhere.
I said that on Kuz's show 2 months ago.
Oh, you did?
Yep.
All right, you're the original.
Then I contacted. I've been trying to find Ute fans that will do what Wild Ute is doing with me. I've been trying for 9 months. It took me 8 months to find him.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it hasn't been easy.
You know what the thing is, guys, is like when you actually press a Ute fan, if you get them to talk about logic and stuff and really what's going to happen in 5 to 10 years, which they don't want to do.
No,
really, it's all the same conclusion. It's all the same conclusion, but a lot of them just don't want to talk right now.
Well, they're scared, and you know, Stanford's scared they're going to take all their money, and they won't hire Utes when they go to the Silicon Valley and all this other threatening stuff that they've been doing with their Research One and their AAU and all this other garbage. At the end of the day, do we want to play football? Is that all we really want?
Do. Yep.
That's all we want is to play football.
And Tony, I mean, I'm defending Tony in a way because he lives on a side of the fence that none of us see. I mean, the guy's bringing on his shows, he's bringing the presidents and ADs of universities. Or the presidents, not the ADs. He lives in a different world. He lives in the academic, and we don't even understand where he's coming from. And so,
but the problem is, Larry, he hasn't even tried to understand the other side. I'll give you an example. I started the Holy Rivals. What was it? Not even a month ago. I can't even make it Twitter Blue yet. It hasn't even been a month. Okay. And I posted one comment, and all it was a question to Tony Altimore. It wasn't derogatory. It wasn't negative. It was just a simple question. And after I posted that question, he blocked me.
Huh.
He does not want to engage. And he's done more damage to all of this than anybody else combined.
Bomber, if Tony came on the show and we had a conversation, would you feel comfortable with him coming on if he's willing? If he's willing, would you? Because I think that we should have a discussion here.
I am willing to listen if he's willing to listen. But what he does is when he goes on shows that people say anything he doesn't want to hear, he either mutes them or disconnects and walks away and won't talk to him. He was on a show with the voice of college football. What's his name?
Mark Rogers.
Mark. And he was on a debate with Kuz and the Josh Neighbors, right? And he was talking, but they started off on one thing, and then Kuz said something that was specific and directed specifically to something he said. The rest of the show, he shut up. 2 days later, he showed up on a show that was supposed to be a quote-unquote debate. He didn't show up, but then got into the messages on chat and started chatting. So he was there. He just didn't want to engage. So, yeah, sure. If you want to set up, he won't show up. You can invite him. I think anybody who's engaged with me gives me high marks for being very respectful. I'm calm. I can listen. He won't come because he doesn't want. To him, none of this matters. You already said it, Larry. He feels that he is sort of in a different world, and that's great. Yeah. That's fine. But don't expect other people to give you some level of respect if you're not willing to give them respect back. So let's go through some of these questions really quick. So Opie said here about the travel between West Virginia and BYU and all points north and south. You guys think that's a deal breaker at all?
The travel?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either, personally. Basketball, they can regionalize and then do crossovers.
If you can marry the hot model, you're going to do it.
I agree with you. Justin say more networks won't renegotiate. I believe that's true. I think money's drying up, which is part of the reason Pac-12 is still an orphan. There's a pro rata. Sorry, I didn't pre-read these guys, so I'm sort of going through these really quick. Big 12 basketball. I said this a couple days ago. If basketball or football was just by population, USC and the University of New York would have all the records. They'd have all the championships because that's where the people live.
Yeah.
So that's not the reason. It has nothing to do with population. Let's see here. Four Corners ACC over SDSU. That's a good question. Do you hold the SDSU and UConn spots in the Big 12 if the waiting on the ACC to blow up?
No.
Say they pick up the Four Corners and Four Corners go.
It
16
seems like
teams.
it's going to happen, but you can't bank on that happening. You can't.
So how long do you wait?
Plan around that strategically, because it's
Right.
the contract's another 12, 15 years down the line. So if that holds, then you're going to be waiting 15 years.
I give Yormark credit when I remember, when they were asking about Gonzaga. Brett Yormark has everything in order that's supposed to go first, second. His number one order is to try and land the Four Corners.
Right.
I'm not going to worry about basketball because if I can land the Four Corners, now I brought in Arizona, I brought in a brand. Now I can start looking like he's lining his ducks up. He's like, I got to get brands in here, and then I can look. Is this going to add? Is this because what happens if the ACC somehow gets a little bit skirted here in say 3 years? What can he add there? Do you really want to go grab a SDSU or a UConn, which UConn's a basketball brand, but what if you can get like a Louisville?
Right.
You're going to take Louisville over UConn or San Diego because you're bringing in basketball and football. Yeah. So you want to, if you can get a 2-for-1 for the same amount of money, you're gonna get that. So I think he's very smart that way. If he gets the Four Corners, he's bringing in Arizona. He's got a basketball brand that's going to sell.
Right.
So I think he's smart. He's smart that way. Yeah, I'm gonna have to move indoors. I'm getting my evening rain.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah, please do.
Opie says the Holy War would be bigger if y'all are in the Big 12. I can just see it it's exciting actually to think what Yormark could do with the Holy War.
Oh boy.
Just like imagine a game in Vegas one year, then BYU, then Utah. I mean,
no, it's got to stay in Utah.
Oh,
it's got to stay in Utah.
Go to Mexico.
I don't think so. BR, who just happens to be an Oklahoma State follower. Shout out to BR. How you doing today? He's saying Utah is definitely valuable. So there you go, Larry. I tell you what, if you'll just send me a message, in some way communicate to me next time you'd be available, and I will put a roundtable together for you, and you can hear directly from Big 12 influencers. And I guarantee you all of them will say, yeah, we hate the communication that's been happening, but the school itself, everybody knows is very valuable.
Yeah, see, I don't do Twitter, and I don't go on the Utah, and I don't go on the Utah message board. So I mean, all this smoke, I don't see that smoke. I just,
it's ugly, Larry. It's really, really, really ugly.
It's been bad.
On
it really
social
has.
Media. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's been bad
between Utah and the Big 12 fan base.
Well, and that's why we started the show, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
we did this just to start to rebuild that.
Two-way street, but it's not pretty.
Yeah, it's true. Kuz says Utah would be a great addition. He's from West Virginia, obviously.
Yeah.
So that's getting you some more, smoke, as you say, from other people. There you go. You can become Big 12 like Texas. Love to hate.
Hey.
That's right up your alley. You've talked about that before.
I think it would be great for Utah to be the villain, the Joker. The conference, the bad guy. I mean,
right.
Being from Utah, we're never the bad guy, right? Everything's
right.
There's no bad guy in this state, but just having that MO as a bad guy is kind of a fun thing. It's on brand for like the Utes too, the physical football we play and everything. I think that could work.
Yeah.
I think it's sellable. It's marketable.
Yeah, it is.
Oh yeah.
Two Masta is another follower. Hey, Two, what you doing? Utah's a great program. So, yeah, if we did a vote, if I did a vote on Twitter right now, Larry, that said, would you take Utah even though they're a bunch of punks versus not having them? You would take the Utah with the punks is what you would get for the vote. 99%. You're going to have those bitter guys that just can't see out their front porch. But I think most people would appreciate Utah being in, and I hope it actually happens. I think you guys would be better off than the Pac-12, but that's just my opinion. What do you think about that?
I think that Utah would be better off in the Big 12, given the current state of things. Again, if Oregon and Washington recommitted and all of a sudden, things changed and we could remain in the PAC at like value, we already are successful in the PAC. So
Right.
move, right? But like if things don't shake out like that and they keep deteriorating, then the Big 12 move would be really a good one for the Utes. And honestly, I've mentioned this before to you, Bomber.
Yeah, don't call me Boomer. I'll take it from Larry. I won't take it from you.
The Texas pipeline, though.
Yeah, right.
Just hitting the Texas pipeline more, and the Utes already hit that. And so,
yeah, I think there's untapped resources in the Southeast. Imagine Utah does a trip to UCF every other year or something. What the recruiting that's in Florida is ridiculous, as Larry knows.
Yeah, what's funny, Utah's been doing Zach Moss, Tyler Huntley were from Florida. We've got Jalen Glover's from Florida. We're doing pretty good in the Florida market, but like you say, if we're playing some more games down here, it might pick up a little more, for sure.
I agree with that. Before I get to this next statement, I'm going to ask everybody, please subscribe, hit your notifications, go to us on Twitter when you see our addresses, and follow us, because this is what we're going to be doing from now on. Not necessarily realignment stuff, but we're going to talk rivalry, the Holy War, BYU, Utah, and we're all going to be better for it. I don't agree with this comment from Steve. I'm sure you liked it, but Utah in the Big 12 this football season, they'd be favored to win the conference.
Well, I think so.
Oh boy, you guys are so. Baylor in Utah.
The Utes this year in the Big 12.
Let's find out when Baylor's in Salt Lake this year. Right?
That's a big game.
It is a big game.
That's a must-win right there.
What happens if you guys lose that?
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. You guys would all disappear under your cars again.
I'm not doing it. I won't be doing a show for a while.
Let's see. Holy War with Vegas Ute, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know if I want to give up my game in Provo, but I could see it maybe being a big event.
I think that's fun.
You imagine that as the championship game. How about that?
Well, yeah, if you grab the four corners.
Except for it's in Dallas.
Vegas is the new place too. Move it from Dallas to Vegas, the games.
That won't happen.
You don't think so?
No, there's too much run in Dallas. TCU, all the teams in Big 12 are in the Midwest. Let's see. Maverick Buster, I appreciate the Utah perspective. You guys are great. Big 12 would be welcome conversation. Yeah, we don't talk about the rest of that. Let's see here. So we've run through the comments. Larry, is there anything else you want to make sure we try to address today?
No, I just, I think the biggest thing is like we're talking about. If the conference was completely aligned, you would have Oregon, Washington coming out, making a little bit of a statement. They're not.
Yeah.
It's very concerning for Utah, because it's like, why are we the ones carrying the torch in a sense? We're the newest kid on the block. We're not the biggest either yet. So
right.
It's a little concerning. And I mean, it almost feels like with let's be honest, the 4 that are left, the original 4, they just don't seem to want all the new additions that have been added, the other 6.
Right.
And so, I'm getting more of a sense of not feeling welcome there, just based on that.
Have they been loyal to you? That's the question I ask you,
No.
Wild Ute, all the time. You guys are loyal to them. Are they loyal to you?
No. Yeah.
I don't think so.
Well, no, they don't like
we fit. Honestly, no. Stanford and like Cal, like we want to fit.
You do,
but it's not a perfect fit. I mean, we're not like them, right?
And you think USC, Oregon, and Washington are happy that Utah has come in as the little brother, and look at where they're at now?
No, of course not.
I
think that's part of the reason why USC froze everybody out and then ended up jumping the next year. As part of that, they don't want to. They don't think you guys should even be on the same field with them, and you beat them 5 out of the last 6 times. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I agree with you there. Let's make a final call. Do we think by June 30th this is going to be over, or are they going to just postpone it, take 2 months off, and we'll be playing football, and you guys will be talking TV contract in October?
I'm thinking that it won't be over by June 30th.
Okay.
That's how things have gone, honestly. I don't know how long this extends. I don't know. but it doesn't feel like it's going to be over soon. I thought it was going to be over months ago. And
I
like,
think, yeah, you thought it was going to be over months ago.
Yeah.
I didn't. I think by June 30th, it'll be done. When we know is the other question. I think by June 30th, it's going to be figured out. Whether we know it's done or not, it's a different, subject, in my opinion. I think everything's could already be decided right now, but I think by June 30th, everything will have been decided. It's just when are we going to find out?
Right.
I can't believe that this might be the last year we're playing the PAC, honestly. The Pac-12 conference, this might be the last year of it. Might be the last time playing these teams. And like, that is unbelievable to think, but we're there. I mean, we're there. This could be the last football season in the PAC, guys. Like, if we move to the Big 12, that is shocking.
It's sad. It really is. And it didn't have to be. And I think that's where most of the frustration comes in, is people see there could have been an alternate reality where if there'd been a little more humility in the Pac-12 when you guys were renegotiating early in July, August, they were given that first proposal from Fox and ESPN, the same one that the Big 12 took without a question. We'd be in a completely different universe right now. And, tipping points, if you've ever read that book, Malcolm Gladwell, this is one of those things where somebody makes a decision and it basically kills an entire conference. It'd be sad.
Yeah.
But I think pragmatism wins, and let's not worry about any conference that is dying. I hope you guys are able to escape. If there's no bravery and you're stuck in a Pac-12 that's basically between universes, I would not want to be your fans, honestly. But
yeah, that'd be tough. That would be tough. Like I said, I think it's say if Oregon and Washington were the only ones that left, it wouldn't be as fun of a conference. I'm not saying it wouldn't be enjoyable, because there's still some decent fun teams there. So if those two left, it would take a lot of the shine off.
Right.
But
Are you talking about remaining in the PAC? If those two, Larry, I mean, like the payout would be like $10 million, $15 million a year. Like it's not even doable. Like we can't afford to do that. We can't pay our coaches.
Well,
I don't know.
It's not. It's a deal breaker financially. I just can't see anything working out of those two. If even one of them leaves, I mean,
yeah.
This is another question, and probably for a different time because we've gone a long time. But this is a question I've asked, and I haven't gotten a lot of straight answers from people because honestly, I don't think they know how to answer the question. And that is Brett Yormark right now offering full shares to jump?
Oh yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah, he better be.
I don't know if that's true.
Are you telling me that Cincinnati and UCF are going to get paid more than Utah?
No, you could be paid the same.
No chance.
Okay.
That's a slap in the face.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Because the brand new call-ups from the G5 were the back-to-back PAC champions.
Yeah.
Like that. No. Don't play that game, Yormark. No, don't do that.
Go ahead, Larry.
That conversation came up, I think, a few months ago, and I remember when there was the talks about supposedly Yormark was talking to Utah through BYU, the back channel situation a few months ago.
Yep.
And Utah came out, and if Yormark offered them, say, just the $20 million, Utah's not leaving the Pac-12 for $20 million.
Okay.
They're not, even if you get, I mean, because I've heard they could get linear for $15 million. Which is horrible, but you're not leaving a conference for $5 million, not an academic conference. Not that it's different curriculum. I have no issues with the Big 12. It's a different curriculum, if that makes sense, between the conferences.
I get it.
So they're not leaving for $5 million. There is no way Utah is leaving the Pac-12 for $20 million. It does not make sense because it literally, they could get minimum 15 linear. It's already been stated. So they're not leaving.
It needs to be the final and best offer, really, to get this done. Just give us the same money that everybody else. Don't mess with it.
That's a great point, Bomber. Like, yeah, this was up a few months ago. I don't think Utah leaves for $5 million less. And I just don't think they're leaving for, but to your point, is Brett Yormark only offering them what ESPN will pay?
Right, and that's kind of my question, and we don't know. It's in the black box somewhere that we can't see into, but I know Wild Ute's very vociferous about the fact that it has to be 100% full share. I'm just telling you the way the economics are right now, it's tough. The environment's very tough. So I'm not saying you don't deserve it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that at all. I don't know if the money's there. So I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
Could Yormark break up the conference if he could only offer 20 million to Arizona, to Colorado? I don't think he could break it up.
What do you mean break it up? I'm sorry.
So, we're talking about Colorado jumping.
Right.
We're talking about Arizona.
Yeah.
Is Yormark offering them equal shares?
It has to be.
Whoever they're offering, it has to be a full share, I'm guessing.
Okay, right.
Yeah, I think he's offering all three of them. All four of them. I do.
That's what that's common sense tells me that's what he's doing.
Yeah, I think that's true. The question has never really been vetted out because when BYU and the other three schools came in, obviously they didn't get a full share. The contract was different at the time. Now, when the new contract kicks in, they will be at a full share, but for the next 2 years, they don't. So there's the question of, well, if these guys are coming in new to the conference, why should they be more?
Right.
I'm not making a value statement one way or the other. It's just a question that I imagine they've probably already answered.
I wouldn't toy with that though. Seriously,
well, it's not up to me. I'm not writing the check.
That's like the kind of stuff that will break deals up. Plus, you guys have a ton of money coming in for the exit fee, right? For UT in Oklahoma.
Yeah, but that doesn't go to us. That goes to the Hateful Eight.
Well, the Hateful Eight should be ponying up. I mean, because you're basically ruining the pack. You're taking out a competitor.
Nah, nobody cares. Nobody cares about that. I'm telling you, nobody cares about that.
His point was to take that money to invest, take that money and finish crushing the Pac-12.
Oh yes, absolutely could. If there's a $5 million, if there's an exit fee, for instance, yes, I could see him taking some of that money. He's already said, Yormark has already said that money could be used to help cover people's exit fees and other stuff like that. Yeah. That's already been noted. That was
if there was any type of financial gap, like the Utes coming in or any other team, and then you could bridge it possibly with those funds. That's what I'm saying.
Well, it's an investment in the future, like Larry said, right? We're talking about down the road. Is it more important than what you're going to get this second? I wish they would just write $10 million checks to both Washington and Oregon and just say, come play with us for 5, 6, 7 years. Because if they come in and then we negotiate the next contract, that contract up a lot more, and now all of a sudden they leave, who cares? Because the contract's now up here. Yeah. So I think that they ought to do whatever they can to get Washington and Oregon, honestly. But I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I don't. No.
Yeah. Let's see. C. John, you needs to be careful not to miss the lifeboat. Yeah, I said that earlier, C. John. I'm not sure if you heard me, but there are only a select number of seats on the bus. I think that's true.
Hey, I want to respond to this because this is what drives me nuts. Okay, so everyone says that we're in a redundant market. Salt Lake's a redundant market because BYU is already, Provo, the market. But what about ASU and the U of A? Like, you've got to make the same argument, like that they're really in that Phoenix market too. So like, don't just throw that at Utah, throw that at ASU and U of A. Decide which one you want if you're going to make that argument. Like, which is more valuable, having the Holy War or having ASU versus U of A?
No, it's the Holy War being together.
Exactly.
The dual marketing.
I mean, that thought process.
I think that's another sort of internet Twitter thing. I don't think they care. The rivalries and the brands make. Bob Thompson said it in October, September last year. It's brands and it's rivalries. It's not households. It's not per capita or any of that other garbage. It's rivalries and brands.
Hey, Bomber, do we have Robert in the queue still? I don't know if he's a
Robert. No. Oh, in other words, to join the call? No, he was on for a bit and we just sort of got into it. I don't know if he's still listening, but I could post that link. Did you want to get his opinion?
A few minutes on this thing before we wind it down, just in case you jump in.
Yeah, let me.
Or anybody else, please jump in.
Yeah, I've just posted the link. Sorry, we got going there, and that was really fun, and I didn't want to get behind that. We want to give Utah fans and BYU fans a different outlet. We're not branded. We're not tied to the schools. We're doing stuff that's passion for the universities and the fans. We're going to service a different clientele, and I think eventually we're almost to 4,000 viewed hours, so we'll be able to take donations and we'll do quotes that will be highlighted, and we'll go through that. We're not quite there, but we're close. I posted the link if anybody wants to join us. Just click on that link, and I'll include you on the show.
So Maverick's saying here, in your opinion, do you think the Big 12 wants to break up the Pac-12?
Oh, I didn't see that one. I'm sorry. Let me bring that up.
The comment is, I hope not, but I think so. I mean, I think we're at that point where taking out the Pac is in the Big 12's best interest because we're consolidating here. We're moving to 4-3 conference possibly. So, yeah, I do.
Yeah, I think they do too. I mean, I've even come out with a new saying, and somebody else may have had it, and I said I ratcheted it up to call them the Kurtz Pitchfork Clan. But right. There's some pitchfork Big 12 people out there who want to just bury the Pac-12, and it makes sense.
They're mad at what happened a couple of years ago.
Oh, and yeah.
So,
boy, Texas.
That goes way back. Of course, yeah, Texas and Oklahoma, and yeah, it's pretty messy. Here's another comment from C. John. My comparison: 50 Salt Lake market. Oh, the size of the markets is what he's talking about versus San Diego. Yeah, I don't think. Like I said, I don't think having San Diego in is a negative or a positive. I think they're just a school. They'll get funding once they're in a big group, and I really think that their value will go through the roof.
And people, like we started off with, people have to understand carrier fees. The Big 12 doesn't get carrier fees because they don't have they're not carrying the carrier fees for the Big 12 network because it doesn't exist. So your market doesn't exist. That's why the Big 10 gets, I think they're the highest rated carrier fee of all the conferences. So if they can get into a market, they get, what was it, $2 per subscriber. So Big 12 doesn't get, it doesn't matter for that. That's why the brands are becoming an issue or becoming more valuable.
And the rivalries carry more weight.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we haven't had anybody else join, so I think we're going to go. Larry, leave us with a good quote or something we can take into this very special Memorial Day weekend. Oh
boy, I don't have one. I'll have to.
All right. How about you, Wild Ute? What do you got for us?
I say, go Utes! Thanks to our veterans, and for some fun banter, to continue this discussion, let's take it to Twitter. Find me at the Wild Ute.
And we have a show going tomorrow afternoon. We're going to do another show. Please, if you subscribe and hit those notifications, you will definitely know when we're back on. Larry, you got anything?
No, just hope everybody has a long weekend that's fulfilling. There you go.
Very good. I appreciate that. Yeah, so catch us tomorrow, and then Mondays, we also have a show. Our normal schedule is on Saturdays and Mondays. Just happened to be there was a lot of action going today, and so Wild Ute and I got together and wanted to put this one on sort of off the cuff. So we appreciate everybody who's participated, and hang loose, and everybody have a good weekend. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace.